The Saline Solution presents Naked, the podcast series that pairs it all: real life experiences, how they were dealt with, and the lessons learned. Facing the person in the mirror always makes us check ourselves, accept our past, and guides us to make the decisions that are best for our peace of mind. Are you naked? Here's your host, Saline Griffith. This podcast is for adults 18 years and over.
Hey all, welcome to episode 2 of the Naked podcast. Well, it is actually part 2 of episode 2 in the relationship series. And episode 2 is about co-parenting, the roller coaster. You know, that part where you have that breakup and you don't know how to interact with your ex, but you have kids to see about. So we have to know what's the best way forward. Some of us, our situations work out quite well, as you would have heard in Crystal's sharing last week. My conversation with Crystal last week, where she spoke about how well her relationship is working out with her ex, and that they're raising their boy in such good stead. But in my situation, I have a few challenges, but I'm hopeful that things will turn around eventually. But today, I have another guest. I have another friend of mine. His name is Gregory. And Gregory is going to share his experience from a male perspective. But we're addressing the same scenario in terms of how that breakup, how you interact after the breakup, and how the way forward in terms of co-parenting your children. Gregory has a slightly different scenario, which he will share with us. And I hope that each of us will learn something, or even if it applies to your own situation, that calling it out to the forefront is going to help you to, understand how to move forward. Even if this information doesn't bring it to the forefront for you, it's going to cause you to think, cause you to get naked with your situation. I'll be right back with Gregory. Glad to have you, Gregory, and thank you for, accepting up my invitation to have this conversation with me regarding co-parenting, because looking at it from a guy's perspective, our last guest, she had a pretty good experience. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the episode, but she has a pretty good experience with her ex. And what I'm speaking about in this episode is the relationship that you have with your ex with regards to co-parenting.
When my experience in terms of a breakup, going through the court system and to where I am now, obviously I'd have to start from when we entered the court system. That was a very impersonable, as I would impersonable, that was a very impersonable, and it was draining at first because we did not talk at all. So there wasn't any communication, there wasn't any reasoning, and there appeared to be no emotional intelligence or emotional maturity when it came to addressing issues and or gaps in the communication.
Right.
The court system, when listening, I would always advise them, if you could avoid the court system and put aside your personal feelings and or ego and really act in service of the children, I offer that is the better way to go.
Yeah.
I verily believe two people interacting, one person isn't going to get what they want always. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, in recognition of that, it was if you could say, a proactive action on my part, where I felt I have to stop giving in to the energy, or stop giving in to what was happening with me. So
Yeah.
in short, I had to accept my reality. And that reality was the mother of my son was very upset with me, and it would be very challenging to have quality conversations whilst in the court, while she's being influenced by a system, a third-party system, and or friends. So I started approaching the situation from a place of what would my in service of, or trying to understand what is she trying to tell me, or what are her actions in service of. So in doing that, I had to learn a bit of empathy. It's not the easiest thing to learn.
Okay.
I had to put my ego aside. Also not an easy thing to learn. And I just decided, some people like to say you're the bigger person. It's not necessarily even that you're the bigger person, but putting the children first or to the fore, okay, what can my reaction do to challenge something positive, because the idea would be now to create a positive environment best as practically possible for the kids. Case in point, when we had to exchange my son, the court system was, carry a witness. Your lawyers will carry a witness, and I'm like, what for? It's you're. So I resolved that. Look, the fact is I have to collect my son. The fact is I have to interact with his mother just for that
brief moment.
So I just really decided, what does that brief moment look like? Do I have to be reciprocating aggression? Do I have to get into anything? My purpose of seeing her solely was to collect the child.
Okay.
So once I started treating the situation with, it's solely to collect the child. I don't have to talk. I don't have to have a conversation. I realized that my interaction is 5 minutes. I don't necessarily have to go over 5 minutes. And I can control my emotions for 5 minutes in service of getting my child peaceably and not exposing him to any hostilities that he can view of mommy or daddy. All right, so that was the court system and the influence of the court and third parties. It's so that was just an example of the decision I had to take in terms of how I interact with her and the type of energies.
Because emotions and so many other factors are influencing the way that you interact with your ex after the breakup. Sometimes you have to introduce the court system, and that may not be the best approach because you have a third party telling you how to raise your child. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, guys, and you're inside the Naked podcast here. We're chatting with Gregory, a friend of mine who's experiencing the co-parenting experience, and right now we're going to talk about his experience with his children interacting with his ex's other partner. What was your experience in terms of other partners?
Very early, my ex got engaged. And had another partner. I was exposed to my son. Now, the way I think might be different to other people. As I said, I had to look at these situations. I had no control over the situation. I had no control who my son is exposed to. But I took comfort, very much like you, in understanding if nothing else going to happen to my son, because in the event something did, he would have had to worry about that red woman before he had to worry about me. You understand? And I always held that to, because although we weren't seeing eye to eye, I know what our son means to her and everything. So she's not making bad decisions.
Same, yeah.
So although I might not agree with certain things, I had no influence. And when I say influence, I don't mean it in a realm of control or anything. We just were not co-parenting. So I can't tell her what's to happen in our household or how to bring up my son.
Right.
So I was not minded she had another partner.
But
Simply wasn't my business.
do you think it's important for if it is, especially if you because you said she was engaged. So do you think it's
Mhm.
important for if you have a serious partner, that this person comes to you, the other parent, to say, hey, did that happen? That she came to you to say, I'm engaged and this person is
No, no, as I said, we were not communicating at all.
oh, you
You
see,
know.
that's very different because I think if you have someone in your life, I'm not saying that the person can't be around the children, but I think I need to know who's interacting with my children. Because I would extend those same courtesies
Mhm.
if it is somebody serious. If it's just people dating, they're not anywhere around my children. But if it's somebody serious, he will definitely need their father will know about this person. Their father will know about the person. He will meet the person as well because this person is like a staying factor in the children's lives. Not that he has a decision-making influence,
Mhm.
right? But he'll be interacting with them. So
But that's very commendable, Celine. But
I want to give their father that respect to know that, okay, your role is not going to be replaced, obviously, but out of respect, this is whoever, and he's going to be interacting with the kids. Might have to pick them up sometimes when I can't, and all of that. And I had to, expect the same thing of him. But if I don't know who you're interacting with, um, yeah, they can't be coming like vitamins in the house one a day. But I guess that's out of my control. That's the man's
correct,
house.
correct. I mean, as I said, you wanted to do that is commendable.
Mm,
But your ex doesn't possess your values.
mm,
So to hold that expectation of somebody, you know, whilst ideal, it's you just realistically, if it don't materialize, you can't be
yeah, yeah.
disappointed.
That's true.
So that's why I keep saying you have to live in your reality.
Correct.
So if your reality is you all do not talk, the expectation to have that courtesy extended to you is kind of
Very
question.
slim.
Yeah, exactly.
Chances are very slim to non-existent.
Exactly. And in my experience, my ex and I, we didn't speak for a while.
Right.
So that information was never forthcoming. But
Mhm.
what am I going to do? Lose sleep over it?
You can't.
Um, so the reality
I
is,
just look at it from the viewpoint of people's energies. No, there are some people with some really negative energies, and I am very careful about things like that. But again, I don't think that their father is going to have them exposed to anybody like that, because I'm pretty certain he must know if somebody is being disrespectful towards his children. She might very well get the axe. It's like, yeah, that's where I draw the line. So I guess that too is some degree of comfort for me. Um, but I really, really try not to put too much pressure. Now I'm realizing that, to be honest. No,
mhm, mhm.
no, yeah. The thing I wanted to talk to you about in terms of what they call tackbacks.
Uh-huh.
I want to tack back if you feel that the conversation you're like actually having good conversations now. Your relationship is a little more amicable into what in leaning more towards friendship. And here it is, you if your ex decides that's an opportunity for them to wiggle their way back in. How what are your views on that, man?
Well, everybody are adults. I
Yeah,
mean, um, the mere idea that she's an ex and yeah, she had kids, you definitely have history.
yeah,
So those are personal decisions, in terms of what the framework of re-engaging
yeah. Because I mean,
with
I've
each
had a
other.
few episodes like that, the talk back. I've
But
had few. I've had no, seriously, I've had episodes like that, and I'm like, oh gosh, why are we even doing this? Because next week we vex again. But I think for me, to the extent where I know that I will always care for this person. It will not be, it's definitely not that I want to be with him again, but I will always care for him, especially the fact, for the reason that he's the father of my two children. But it's not in that capacity. So when you let your guard down and you take a little tack back and then you realize, hey, this is not what I want, then you
So let's be clear. Let's be clear on the definition of talk back there. You just meaning just like a one night stand just for physical gratification, or
probably, yeah, for the
yeah.
most
So
part.
I was more referencing that if you would ever reconsider
Reconcile.
reconcile. So
Well,
yeah, so
there have been,
I thought on the actual talk back. That's a personal decision of mine.
mhm,
I don't know. It's something that I don't think I'll consider.
mhm.
Um, but uh, but again, that's an individual decision. Eh?
Yes,
So
yes.
what you want to look.
No, I just think this was asking you what you think in terms of the health of that, if you know that people are not, I mean, that doesn't happen in my scenario anymore.
And for me personally, I don't think that's too healthy because
Me
you
too.
don't know
Well, you realize that, huh?
what how somebody interpreting that. They might say something up front, there's just a cool scene, and what's the expectation that comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
for me, it's yeah.
Mm-hmm. So where are you now in terms of that interaction? How are you all now? You're all cool.
We are we are doing really well. We have some effective co-parenting going on. We
I like
share.
that.
I'm included in the decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so much so like um, of course this COVID-19, we live in houses, but we treat both houses as one household.
Right.
Um, that we're informed if we are exposing ourselves by going out in the public. I would keep the boys.
Mm-hmm.
We've made a decision for if we need to venture out for food and stuff, that I would be the one to do it.
Okay.
She would look after both boys. Uh,
Right.
we have the ability to use one house to sanitize items and put it away, and then carry on with life.
That's very commendable. I like that. Mm-hmm.
We've we've made some decisions um, on our son's schooling, given
Right.
the online schooling options and the school that he used to go to. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say it's improved drastically,
Yeah.
and we're seeing the benefits of um, effective communication and
Mm-hmm.
effective co-parenting. The boys are responding better to it now as they
Mm-hmm.
spend more time with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, they don't see any sort of aggression exchanging between us. And we've even decided if we disagree with on terms of discipline, we
Mm-hmm.
don't discuss that in front of the boys or our son.
Okay. Okay.
So it's gotten so much better where there are more pros than cons. Yeah.
Mm. So, Gregory, thank you very much for sharing your time with me on this conversation with co-parenting in terms of the exes and, well, of course, in this series of relationships. So, uh, hoping that the boys enjoy the time with mommy and daddy in COVID. How's COVID been for you guys, man? Well, I
It's
mean, you
been
just said you have a plan in place, so that's great.
yeah, it's been good. It's not ideal,
Mm-hmm.
but at least the boys are all together. They're getting the right amount of exposure to each
Mm-hmm.
parent
Yeah.
and to each other's siblings. And seeing that they realistically haven't interacted with any other children since March.
Okay.
Um, the
So they have each
environment,
other. Mm-hmm.
well, they have each other. Not only that they have each other, but they're getting proper access to each other and proper access to parents,
Mm-hmm.
both parents, and it's an opportunity for everybody to vibe, synergize, and so it's a positive environment in a kind of weird 2020. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad environment.
Mm-hmm. And I mean,
So
why I
I'm really
decided,
thankful for that.
yeah, that's good to know. But why I decided to have this conversation in this series is that it really depends on the relationship of the two people and the willingness to interact or not. If
Mhm.
one person decides to just pull away to keep the peace, but to keep that positive sort of environment for the children when it comes to co-parenting, and you never know how it's going to develop later on
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the respect and the regard for each other's space, that kind of thing, and role
Mm-hmm.
as the other parent. So thank you so much. And I hope anybody who's listening that you would have gained some knowledge here. You had a perspective from a female last week. That was Crystal sharing her experience. And this week we have Gregory sharing his experience from a man's perspective. And I'm really, really happy to have you, Gregory, on the show with us today, even though you're not feeling well. So I hope you get better. Hope you get some sleep. Yes, I know I woke you up, but that's okay. You'll be all right. Is our love, is our love. Yes, darling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much. All right. I will
No
chat
problem,
soon.
and happy to be here. And good luck and all the best in your endeavors with your podcast. And I listen to your radio show.
Oh, thank you very
Wonderful stuff you're
much.
doing. And
Thank you
you're
very much.
welcome. You're welcome. And remember to live good with people. Huh?
I
Live good
live
with people.
I try to live good with people all the time as if they live in good with me. All right then, Greg, you take care. All right, folks, so there you have it. You had two perspectives, Crystal and Gregory, and thank you so much, guys, for getting naked on this episode of Relationships, which was relating to parenting, co parenting after the breakup, that emotional roller coaster that we all experience at some point in time. So, thank you so much, guys, for that, for sharing your stories, and always remember to be a good human. Thank you so much for listening.